So exciting.
Hello, I am Megan Powers with Powers of Marketing, and this is episode 26 of Making a Marketer. And our guest today is San Diego rock star, entrepreneur, boss babe, Kendra Losee. Welcome, Kendra.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Me too. This is a topic that's super interesting to me, and I've been making the joke like, hey, what better to talk about right before Thanksgiving than cannabis?
If you're hanging out with your family, it means
I lived my whole life without knowing that my brothers got high before Thanksgiving dinner throughout my childhood.
That's awesome.
But it totally makes sense, right? There's Stephanie. Are you using Ecamm yet? No, shamefully, Steph, I have not. I need to learn how to. I am a next one. That's my pledge. My pledge to you and
Stephanie,
to Ecamm.
We're going to switch. I'm going to try Be Live next, and she's going to try Ecamm.
Thanks for watching, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Okay, so I am. We got introduced through mutual women entrepreneurs here in San Diego, and you have a couple different marketing businesses that you have going. So, why don't you tell us what you're up to and what you're all about?
Absolutely. So first of all, thank you for having me, Megan. It's exciting to be able to be here. I actually have two sides of my business. They both do the same thing. So it's marketing agency, social media, and content marketing to help small businesses grow. One is more traditional businesses, so higher education, which is my background, financial services, and the other is cannabis marketing. And I keep them separate for many different reasons, among them banking and compliance and risk factors and everything else. So the cannabis side of my business is called Mota Marketing. Mota is Spanish for marijuana. Fun fact.
That is a fun fact.
So yeah, it's really exciting. I do a bi-weekly live show, Facebook live show as well, talking about cannabis marketing live. Talking about cannabis marketing and what's going on with it and highlighting tools. It's
got the best name ever. All puff, no fluff, right?
Yep, absolutely.
So awesome. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I just like that. We needed to get that in there.
No, absolutely. Thank you.
All right. So, and then you're teaching too, right?
Yeah, so I created a course for social media for cannabis entrepreneurs, and then I also teach social media management and marketing at a national university.
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
Fabulous. Okay, so how did you get into working in the cannabis marketing space? Let's start there.
I started my own agency. And I basically, the equivalent of the digital shingle, right? Put out the notice saying I'm starting my own agency. And the very first client I got was a cannabis client. And so I started doing all the research and figuring out what they needed and figuring out how to help them. And in doing so, I started meeting people in the industry and really, really falling in love with the people and everything that was happening in it. As well as I figured since I'm doing all this research and information for one client, why not apply that to this whole transformative industry?
Right. Yeah. It's obviously there's it's just at the precipice. Like it's just at the very beginning. And I had an 8-hour drive today, and so I decided to listen to podcasts the whole way. And so I thought, I'll do a search on some cannabis marketing podcasts. And okay, so I was driving, so I had to be safe, and I just saw a couple. So the first one I listened to, the first one that popped up was kind of funny because it was a live show like this where they were, but they, just put it on the podcast, but they didn't edit it or anything. So it's kind of like I was just like listening to these friends having a conversation. But the title of it was compliance. And then all they talked about is that you need to be compliant. They didn't actually talk about any of the things that make you compliant or like what's involved, which is like the whole thing, right? Like I wanted to know, because I wanted to ask you about that. Like, what are they going to say kind of a thing? And I don't expect you to be all up on like state laws and any of the intricacies, but let's talk a little bit about, and like Kylie also had asked a question about Facebook and Instagram and not being able to advertise. So it all has to be organic, yeah? All the
So the thing to know, there's a couple things to know, and one is that Google, Facebook, the larger digital companies focus on the federal laws, not the state laws. So they don't actually care if it's legal in your state. They care if it's legal federally.
Oh, okay.
And part of that is the business banking, and there's a bunch of things that go into that, but that's the first thing to know. So you can't, when it comes to digital, you can't do paid ads on Google. You can't do, for the most part, and I'll talk about that, there's some exceptions. You can't do paid ads on Facebook, Instagram. The only places you can do paid ads are basically network, there's specific cannabis networks that either work with cannabis friendly sites. So they can be cannabis focused or mainstream sites, but it's all becomes like a banner ad sponsorship type play versus the normal paid ads that we're used to relying on.
Okay. But they can have big old billboards.
So the billboards, and this varies by state. Like I was talking to my friend about the state of Michigan, and she was laughing that there's very little regulations around the marketing. But when you look at the state of California, they used basically traditional demographics and traditional information in terms of looking at that. So any advertisement that you put that's a cannabis advertisement has to be, the demographics have to be 71.6% of that population that would see that ad have to be over the age of 21.
Okay, which is impossible to control on the internet.
Right. Yeah. And digital, when you look at billboards, they have to, they're using demographic information and the same kind of information that you get from a traditional media company. Online, it becomes totally different because someone can use your password. Multiple people could be using the same IP address. It varies.
Right. Golly. So what's your workaround? What have you been doing?
So there's a lot of reliance on events and really using events marketing, and then there's a lot of reliance on public relations, on search engine optimization, content marketing, and there are ways to get creative to do ads on Facebook and Instagram, but you have to be really careful.
Okay. Yeah. The kind of what I picked up from something I heard was needs to be somebody can't be smoking, and you can't have like a ton of product in the picture. It needs to be more like lifestyle. Is that kind of the?
No. So for Facebook, and those are on the accounts. So just focusing on the paid side first. So on the paid side, Facebook allows two types of ads: education and advocacy. So if you are educating somebody about a product, or if you are trying to do advocacy type posts or ads, you can be allowed. Now I'm saying can be because Facebook does not apply their regulations across the board. So I was helping a client with a campaign to educate on, they had a DNA test, and it was educating people on whether or not even cannabis would work for them. So it's not even like you are going to take this, is it an option? And I ran the same ad, and all I did was change the photo from one lifestyle picture to another lifestyle picture, because one ad was running in LA and the other was running in Seattle and Portland. So there was 3 locations. One got rejected completely, one I got to appeal and it passed, and one passed perfectly fine. It 100% depends on who the reviewer is. And you don't want to say cannabis if you can avoid it.
Right.
There's other ways. And there's some other ways people are finding to work around it too. Like dispensaries that have branded merchandise are now running ads for their merchandise, like buy our hats with the logo on them, and then sending them to a page to buy the hat, which happens to be, part of a dispensary.
Sneaky. That's good to know, though. So Stephanie Lou asks, are there restrictions on YouTube?
That's actually a great question, because YouTube, as far as paid ads, I haven't seen anything, but I'm sure there are, because YouTube's community guidelines actually says that it's okay. Basically, it's like, don't create weapons, don't create things that can kill people. Or, it's very, very, and don't show people, shooting up, right? Like, they're very, very vague. However, the thing to know about YouTube is they were randomly shutting down cannabis accounts this summer with no rhyme or reason and no explanation. So it was nothing to do with their community guidelines that they offer. It was just completely random in terms of what they were shutting down.
Well, it's like the Wild Wild West, it sounds like.
It definitely is, for sure.
So that poses challenges. I mean, it makes you even more valuable to your clients, right? Because they need someone who's going to keep up on all of it and see when things get taken down. And they're, I think for the most part, right, they're too busy doing the work, and
Absolutely.
that they need someone.
Absolutely.
So would you agree that cannabis entrepreneurs are focusing more on like short-term gains and really, or because I was listening to a show that Gary Vee was the guest on the Dope magazine or something.
Yeah.
And he's not real into the industry, but he's always into what's up and coming and all of that kind of stuff. And so his perspective sort of was that like a lot of the cannabis entrepreneurs need to kind of like just chill out and know that like it's going to be there's a longer play to it, that they don't have to worry about immediate, windfall so much.
Yeah. So it's interesting talking to people because there is a big like green rush, right? Everyone's trying to get into the industry and wanting to know because that's where the money is. But honestly, when I talk to people, the main people who are making money right now are people who are getting investors, right? And they actually have to prove their investment. So they're not just really making a ton of money, right? But lawyers are doing fine because of all the regulations and the licensing, at least here in California. And right. Then lawyers, dispensaries, and people who are already set up. It can cost at least $1 million at this point in time in certain counties to get the licensing for your dispensary. So that's even before you get set up.
Right.
Right. And then I was talking to somebody, and the lab tests, because all of the product in California is required to be lab tested. And in California, that's created a bottleneck for products here. And so I was talking to somebody who owns 2 labs in California. One's in California, and they're looking to open another one. But she was saying that it's $2 million to own all the equipment and everything before you even open up.
Wow.
So yeah, it's really interesting.
So Stephanie asked, I'm really interested to see how involved they are with local SEO.
That's really interesting because I think it's a great question. I think it's a great opportunity that a lot of businesses are overlooking. Honestly, there are SEO companies that are focused specifically on the cannabis industry. When you start to look at it, it really depends on the business. So dispensaries are going to want to have a very strong local presence, but also some of the edible products and some of those companies can sell across the state, so they're not as worried about their local SEO per se. I mean, the local is bigger, right? It's statewide versus city or countywide. But I think it's an underutilized thing that a lot of people could be using more of, that they're not. They're relying on Weed Maps or different companies like that to create their websites and get people to their door.
Oh, interesting. So you're not dealing in that at all specifically with your clients?
A little bit. I'm trying to get them to understand the value of it more. But right. Once again, it depends on the client. So I have a client right now that they're called strainconnect.com, and they're an online app basically, and they help connect people with the rights. They make recommendations for the right CBD for you based on their profile and based on the products. So they'll make personalized recommendations for you, but they can do that nationwide. So they're not worried about the fact that they're in the Bay Area. Right. So it just really depends on the client and what they're targeting and how they're going about it. But I do think that there's a lot of power in local SEO that's being wasted right now, that people aren't taking advantage of in ways they could.
Well, for retail, for sure.
Oh yeah, retail. Yeah, and retail. Yeah, and retail dispensaries, once again, it's like local SEO plus, mobile search plus the apps like Ease or Web Maps or whatever, whatever people are using. It's all of those things, not just picking one or two.
So Steph asked about Yelp. Is that considered a social media platform?
Yelp's a really good question. I haven't
Step in all the solid questions.
I know that one. I don't necessarily. I haven't seen much talk about Yelp lately, and mostly because honestly, the clients I've been working with are B2B for the most part, less B2C.
Oh, okay.
But I also think that some of just locally, honestly, in most counties right now in California, there's very few dispensaries, and so it's mostly based on location.
Gotcha.
And then it's followed by a couple other things. There are counties in San Diego, there are counties throughout California where they've lumped all the dispensaries together. Okay, where my sister lives, there's 5 within a 2-mile radius. Then it's not location. Then you actually have to work on your differentiation and the products and the service and all those things that make you unique. And that's where I think some places are falling down a little bit as well.
Okay.
And some are doing it really well, by the way.
Oh, good. Well, and I see there being a lot of opportunity for referral for you as well within the industry. Well, and just for it being a huge niche, but I remember you and Elo talking about that. There's a lot of risk involved, right?
Absolutely. Even just for me to get a bank for my clients that come in through cannabis, I'm not touching the plant. In a lot of cases, like I said, I work with an app builder, right? They're not touching the plant. My DNA client wasn't touching the plant. For the most part, I have a dispensary I work with, but for the most part, I'm a couple away. And even that, I had to call a couple banks. I heard one that was allowing it. I called and they were like, we can't technically approve that, but go in and see what they say. And it wasn't until I actually went in and they were like, oh yeah, we'll help you.
Okay. Well, and I was just thinking maybe a credit union versus an FDIC, right?
That's what it was. It was a local credit union, but only one of them, not any of the others.
Gotcha. Wow. Okay. So I see there being then all of these things being known, and opportunities for influencer marketing in this space. Are you doing any of that? Or, obviously creative organic, but influencer marketing. What's happening there? Anything?
Absolutely. Yeah. So there are people who are starting to do more influencer marketing. Absolutely. I actually was just at MJ BizCon last week. So it's the largest marijuana business conference in the country, world. Last year there was 16,000 people there. 18,000. Sorry. Last year there was 18,000 people there. This year there was 25.
Wow.
So once again, when Gary Vee says stick it out, people are rushing in to do something, but most of them aren't going to last because they're expecting huge rewards right away, and it doesn't work that way. Right now, a lot of companies are working on the regulations and trying to figure out their packaging, trying to figure out the various regulations that California keeps pushing through as things change. And they're not necessarily thinking about building their brand stories and doing those things that they need to be doing.
Right. Well, and now it's legal all throughout Canada. So I saw Amanda Robinson was interested, but she's it looks like she's not on just yet. But what a huge opportunity there, right? For all the barriers down, if the whole country is yeah, go for it. I could see them still putting some restrictions on how you can advertise based on the underage thing and stuff, but.
So Canada's restrictions are a lot more strict. I'm not as familiar with them as I should, but there's a couple benefits to Canada, right? It's one big country. They didn't break it out state by state and worrying about all these things that we're worrying about. A lot of companies are moving to Canada because it actually is a springboard into Europe. So they could go through Canada to get to the EU and not have to worry about all the different states in the US. Right? So, but on the other hand, Canada's rules, like I said, I'm not going to get this 100% right, but I know it's a lot more strict, and there's actually problems with that because they're not allowed, there was something around, they're not allowed to create actual brands that you can, logos or some of those things. So they're really limited in a lot of ways in terms of the lack of ability to advertise or even really create those things that we take for granted.
Oh, interesting.
So good and bad.
Yeah. Well, I know. And then I was, one of the things I heard was that the medical marijuana there has been, they've been ahead of us on that. But that's all online, and you don't go, there's no dispensaries, you don't go anywhere. Like you order online, it gets delivered through the postal service, and that's it.
Whole different world. I tried to get something delivered through the postal service, not the postal service, but a delivery service, and they told me that if I didn't pick it up right away, they were going to give it to the police, turn it over to the feds. I'm like, it was to help me sleep at night. It was literally drops to help me sleep at night.
Wow.
You're going to give that to the police because I'm not there to pick it up because you can't deliver it? That's crazy.
That is crazy. Wowzers. Okay. So the influencer marketing thing, what do you,
yes.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are actually using influencers. I think once you get to that point and people are trying to figure out how to, who to, and really reach those people. I think, you see a lot of it, and it's growing as well. There's a lot of people who are quite happy to hang out, smoke a joint, and take pictures of themselves doing it.
Right.
But it's more than that. It's more than that as well.
No, of course. But yeah, I wonder how much of that you could use, though. I mean, in terms of like pictures and postings, you can't really, like, you could use it to get people to things, right? Like so-and-so, Jack Black or whoever, like Kevin Smith's going to be at this, right? I mean, that's not a stretch, is it?
Well, Snoop Dogg has his own company.
Okay, that makes sense.
Cheech has his own company. There's a lot of people who've gotten into it in terms of the Marley family. They've got their own company. Like, there's a lot of people who've gotten into it because they have the name brand already there.
Right.
And that's not even looking at the influencers. The thing with the influencers is you really need to try and get that target market, right? Because there's a lot of, like I said, I was joking around, and I actually just saw an ad for a company that was literally looking to hire people to test their new products and take pictures of them doing it, right? Like, they were trying to get a bunch of smaller influencers or micro influencers to post about their products and stuff. But, you've got everyone from the giant celebrity brand names to the micro influencers, but it's trying to tap the markets that you don't normally see, right? The traditional stoner stereotype is only 13% of the market.
No, for sure. So, like, I went to a dispensary in Colorado before it was legal here. I took my nephew, and it was like soccer moms in line.
Yeah, and
definitely. Yeah, there's obviously, because there's so many uses for it, like CBD oil, and there's so many people that it's such a benefit for anxiety, and there's so many things that it can help you with sleeping. Obviously, and there's a number of things other than just like partying.
Right. And that's where, sorry.
No, I was going to say, which is why this is important. Why it's legal, so you should be able to market it. So I guess it's just figuring out those, the ins and outs.
Right. And some people, it was actually Seth Godin wrote a really interesting article or blog post not that long ago about how everyone was talking about cannabis following alcohol. And his point was it can follow alcohol in some ways, but when it comes to marketing, not necessarily, because alcohol, the end of the prohibition lined up with right around the time people were starting to get TV sets. And so you had an entirely different, there's so much has changed since everyone gathering around the TV and alcohol suddenly being legal, that, and then all the regulations coming into place. There's so many things that have changed that when you start to look now, it's not going to mirror that same model in a lot of ways.
Right. Well, and look how many years they let cigarettes be advertised on TV, and so it's interesting because I never really thought about it because cannabis used to be legal. So basically, we've just reached the prohibition being released in California of cannabis. Because obviously it was used for medicinal reasons and for all kinds of stuff that. Anyway, so we've got a long. We're at the very beginning, clearly. So what's like a number one tip if there's a marketer out there who's watching this? What's the top thing that you would tell them to do before they get started? Like what's a good resource or a tip for them?
That's a great question because I get asked all the time to go to coffee, and I feel like a lot of us that have been in the industry for more than a year or two are like, let me pick your brain, which is awesome. That's great. But last time I did a panel, I got 5 requests to pick my brain. It's like, I can't.
Right.
So number one resources, I would say get out and connect with people. First of all, like the community is very tight knit. And there's people that I've been networking with that I keep running into, especially, you know, in San Diego and Southern California. Like get out and talk to people who are already doing it. And then two, make sure that you understand the rules and limitations. And then, you know, once you know your structure and your framework, like you can get creative as you want within that, but or find ways around it. Like I said, people marketing their branded merchandise. But there's, you know, there's not a lot of, there's a lot of information online about it, but I have seen a lot of people just like, oh, I'm in cannabis now, and throw up a website and I can read it and tell you whether or not they actually know what they're doing. So I think that doing your due diligence first is really, really important before you start saying, hey, I'm doing this.
Right. Is there like a Facebook group, or where's the community hang out online?
So Facebook actually removed searches on Facebook groups that are cannabis related. So
that's
just like Google removed the keyword search terms. If you use the keyword tool, you can't find cannabis related search terms on Google. Thanks, guys.
What?
Yeah. So there's actually a lot of Facebook groups. I think that once again, as you start networking with people, they'll tell you where they are. I'm in several that are women entrepreneurs in cannabis. We just had a great event in Las Vegas that my friend put on, and that group grew organically from a networking event that happened a year and a half ago. And now there's over 4,000 women in this group that are all across the supply chain in cannabis. And it grew because of, you know, my friend Kira runs it, and she keeps a very tight, she has a social media background, so that helps. But she keeps a tight rein on it. The people are really just excited to engage with each other and women in the industry, because it's, you know, every new startup is so many industries are so male dominated. About 27% of and I've seen this number dropping, so it might be lower, but 27% was the last number of businesses in cannabis are owned by women or have women CEOs. So we're trying to keep it that way and keep the representation. So there's a lot of camaraderie and community around that.
So Steph said, wow, why? And I think that was in reference to the Facebook removing the cannabis groups. I mean, is it because it's only legal in certain states?
I think that goes back to federal, and they're just reinforcing the federal laws. Same with Google. There must have been something that made them both do it, because they both did it around the same time.
I see.
So I think there must have been something that came down that scared them a little bit, which whether it was Jeff Sessions or not, I don't know, but it's been really frustrating. And then I see that. Go ahead.
Steph's is there a community app that someone has created?
So there's actually quite a few. There's quite a few community apps that people have created. A friend of mine has one called Calogia that's like a LinkedIn for cannabis. Oh, okay. And she also has the Business Minds of Cannabis, or whatever it's called, is her podcast. Okay. So she created one that's like LinkedIn. There's a couple others that are out there. But I haven't found any with great technology. And it doesn't help you if you're trying to reach people outside of the cannabis community. So if you're going B2C, you're not going to reach the people you want through there, but it's strictly for like networking with other people. But honestly, I don't love their interfaces. It's kind of bad.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not good. So I apologize for the bells. When you're, when you're approaching Thanksgiving and you're at a friend's living room, sometimes clocks go up. It's awesome. True. I show your face. I was trying to cover the mic, and then for those who are listening on the replay, you'll catch the you'll catch the lovely background music.
I was like, is that my warning time? Do I have to get? Do I have to talk faster? I've got a lot more to say.
No, I know. No, not at all. I mean, of course, that 30 minutes went by like on a heartbeat. I'm gonna say, okay, I asked Kylene's question basically. Is there anything else that you wanted to share about the industry or anything?
It's actually been an amazing industry to be involved in. There's so much changing, and there's just so much changing, and there's so much opportunity there, especially if people already are strong marketers. There's always room, right? And people are still trying to figure it out. And so getting talented people in the industry who know what they're doing is actually really, really key. But like I said, if you're looking to go join, do your due diligence, because you can't just like drop a sign and get started.
Right. No, I see that. I don't see you as having competition. I see there as being like there's all this room, and yeah, I mean, I feel like the more people that are doing anything right, even in like brick and mortar, like if something is just starting to grow, I feel like the more there is, the more the opportunity there is to talk about it. So Steph wanted to know if you're going to offer a mastermind to help small business owners figure it out.
It's so funny you asked that, because I might have just been talking to a couple friends about that, who specialize in different parts of the business.
Okay.
Last week at MJ BizCon in Vegas.
Fabulous.
So the answer to that is not yet.
Okay, but probably coming. All right, so tell our listeners on the replay and our viewers how they can find you.
Absolutely. My website is Mota Marketing, MOTA marketing.com. I'm the same at Facebook, Instagram, everywhere at Mota Marketing. I also have my live shows first and third Thursday of every month, which is Cannabis Marketing Live, all puff, no fluff. And that's also out of the Mota Marketing Facebook page.
Awesome. And then are you putting those on YouTube as well?
Yeah. So I don't have a personalized YouTube channel yet.
Okay. That's okay. But obviously, we know as marketers that reusing content is brilliant, and especially given that YouTube, of course, you have to be careful probably about keywords and that kind of thing on there, which makes it a little tricky since it's the number 2 search engine out there.
I know.
I see there being so much value in the information that you're sharing on your show. So I'm glad that we got a little nugget of it here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks for being a part of us. Oh, Steph wants to know what your tagline is.
All puff, no fluff.
See? I love it.
She also helped me get there. Come
Snappy.
up with it. So. Thanks, Steph.
No, this is great. Thanks, Steph. Really appreciate it. I know it's a holiday week and stuff, and this live show has been a little. She was my last guest, actually. It's been a little erratic in terms of timing, so I'll get a cadence down here before too long. But it's definitely, I'm settling on Tuesdays because Thursdays are just too busy. So the live shows will generally be the third or fourth Tuesday of the month moving forward for those of you who are listening on the replay. So thanks so much, Kendra. I wish you a happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving to you. Thank you.
Thanks. And for those listening on the replay, thank you so much, or watching the replay on Facebook or YouTube. Thank you for checking out Making a Marketer. We have 25 other awesome episodes if you want to listen back. The last live I did was with Stephanie Lou on live video. So that's a definite must listen. And then if you do catch us on iTunes, please rate and review us. I never ask for that, but it helps us get our stats. And so I need to get our numbers up so that we can see how awesome we are doing. So thanks again. And thank you everyone for listening, and we will catch you next time.